All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, hello and welcome to Unify's webinar on how to convert Oracle Forms applications to ADF. This is your host, Matt Brunquell. And before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items. For those of you new to Unify Corporation, we're a publicly traded software company that's been in business for over 32 years. And we're known for being the first to deliver a relational database in the Unix environment. But since then, we've delivered development tools geared towards the business application developer. We do modernization solutions like the one we're going to show you today around Oracle Forms, as well as we do archiving and e-discovery. But today, we're going to focus on one of our premier modernization solutions for modernizing Oracle Forms applications. So we encourage questions on the webinar, and the way to do that is to use the Q&A button on your WebEx. That's the one with the question mark. There's also a chat, but it just makes it easier for Khalid and I to get to all the questions if we have only one panel to look at. And I mentioned Khalid, that's Khalid Beg, and he'll be providing the demonstration portion today. And Khalid is our Director of Migration Services, so he's been involved in both Oracle Forms upgrades as well as Oracle Form conversion projects to Java and ADF. And a long time ago, he even programmed in Forms himself. So it's a great opportunity to have him for the demonstration portion and here to ask questions as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and review the agenda. So the objective for today's webinar is to provide you with some information on converting Oracle Forms applications to Java in Oracle ADF. And we'll start with an introduction that includes an overview of the CipherSoft business, and we'll provide a brief overview of Oracle ADF. ADF is a very expansive topic, so we're just going to focus on the user interface components since today's webinar is about conversion to a browser-based app in ADF. But we'll also look at the key considerations for Java conversion in general. And we'll do all of this in about 15 minutes, and then we'll follow it with a demonstration so you can see how easy it is to convert Oracle Forms applications into Java. And it'll use ADF components for the user interface layer. And then we'll follow that with a Q&A. So CipherSoft is a part of Unify Corporation. We have over 32 years of experience, as I had mentioned, in database development tools and application modernization. And CipherSoft is a very established and very successful set of solutions for modernizing Oracle Forms applications, both for upgrading Forms to the latest releases as well as converting to Java and ADF. We're a member of the Oracle Modernization Alliance, or OMA, and for those of you that don't know, OMA is an Oracle initiative to help customers modernize their applications and infrastructure. And CipherSoft is all about modernizing Oracle Forms as part of the OMA. So Oracle ADF stands for Application Development Framework, and it's Oracle's Java framework for building enterprise applications. And in order to support enterprise applications, ADF supports many different Java technologies and components. You know, if you want to build a Java EE application with a model view controller or MVC architecture from scratch, ADF offers a persistence layer, a model layer, all of that to build the code upon. And ADF's included with the Oracle Application Server license. However, ADF can also be purchased and licensed separately to be deployed on other application servers. Now, we don't have time to go into all the different Java technologies of ADF, but for today's webinar, we want to touch on ADF Faces because this is related to the user interface. So ADF Faces is a set of graphical components for building rich user interfaces in a browser or thin client. And it's built on the open standard Java Server Faces, or JSF. But what Oracle did with the JSF and creating ADF is the user interface or UI components have built-in properties, much like the UI components in Oracle Forms. So applications converted with the solution you'll see in the demo are Java EE applications with an MVC architecture, and they're using these ADF UI components in the presentation layer. Now, I listed a few examples on the slide here of some of these components and the built-in properties. But one thing that's important to note is that the number of components in ADF, these user interface components, was significantly expanded in ADF 11G. So it went from approximately 100 components in ADF 10G to 150 in ADF 11G. And just as key, the built-in properties were expanded on some of these components as well. And this was really key. It's very important when you're trying to create the rich functionality of a client-server forms application, you know, those rich user interfaces you have in your forms apps. Having those extra properties and objects is important when you're trying to recreate that in a browser environment. So, wanted to touch on that on ADF to give you some context and background about, you know, how comprehensive ADF is, and then specifically drill down on these UI components or objects, because that's what's key in recreating an Oracle Forms-like application in ADF, is using those objects. But in general, the key considerations on a conversion project to Java for an Oracle Forms application, there are some key considerations that we're listing here. So a migrated application should be as intuitive for the original developers to maintain as it is for the new developers who might not have experience in the Oracle Forms technology. So practically speaking, this means that your solution should provide a one-to-one conversion in the code as much as is possible. And this has some really interesting impacts by doing this like for like, if you will, or one for one as much as possible, because you have to consider the impact on the end users of the application as part of this, because you want to reproduce all the functionality of the application, but that's not enough. It has to behave similarly over in the new environment in order to avoid retraining on the application. In particular, for applications with a large number of users, avoiding this retraining can be a significant cost savings. And then the other impact is on the developer side as well, which is the customers can use, when you do a like-for-like, the same scripts for testing the functionality as they use in the Oracle Forms application. And our customers have found that this is a much, much lower risk approach, and also just speeds the migration of the application over into the Java platform. And then by doing that, they get it over there in this like-for-like fashion. They do some modernization, and there's some that automatically happens as part of that like-for-like migration. You'll see that in the demo. But then once they have it over there in a very low-risk way, then they can modernize and extend the application longer term in this new environment with the ways that they want to do that. Because, you know, what the realization they come to is that rewriting the application from scratch, users end up navigating differently, and, you know, that creates a lot of disruption for the end users, but it also creates a whole new set of how do you test all of that functionality that you've migrated over in a rewrite. It just becomes very, very challenging. So this graphic here on this slide illustrates some of the keys to creating a path for the developers involved in the migration project. We spent some time talking about the end user impact on the previous slide. But in addition to producing clean Java code, keeping the file structure of the components and objects organized much as they were in Oracle Forms provides a reference point both for the original Forms developers if they're involved in the migration project, as well as for the Java developers if it's going to be a Java team that's going to be working with it moving forward. But in particular for Oracle Forms developers, this really eases the learning curve into Java. And you'll see this in the demo, and I think this is one of the distinctions of our solution that we're going to show you in the demo, is when you open up the converted application in JDeveloper, you're going to see the folder structure of the project you're going to be able, as a developer, navigate through it much the same way as you did in Forms, except when you open these folders, it's going to be Java code, but you're going to see the component names maintained, the names of the visual objects and the triggers, obviously within the conventions or naming standards within Java, but you'll be able to recognize where the code is that you want to get to maintain or extend for any reason. You know, and as shown on that slide, Oracle Forms knowledge is rewarded, keeping the terminology and the object and method names and all of that. That helps tremendously in reducing the learning curve for the Oracle Forms developers. However, I want to emphasize that this converted application is 100% Java. It's a Java EE application. And in the generated architecture, the key concepts and fundamental principles of object-oriented programming can easily be identified. So you'll see Java design patterns as well as classes and inheritance, interfaces, objects, packages, polymorphism. You're going to see all of these types of things that you would expect for a full Java application, because that's what it is. And this illustration shows just a few examples of that at the business logic layer. We'll also, during the demo, we'll take a look at the presentation layer that uses the ADF UI objects. But just wanted to give you a little flavor for that, because I think this is a very important point. Now, at this point, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and demonstrate the conversion step in the migration project, and I'll turn this over to Khalid in a minute, but just some key points to keep in mind during the demonstration. What we're going to do is we're going to do a conversion for you, and we're going to convert the Oracle Summit application. This is an Oracle application that they use for training purposes as well as demo purposes. We're an Oracle Gold partner. We have permission to use it as well for our purposes. And so what you're going to see is it's probably not as complex, if you will, in scope as some of your complex applications, but it has a lot of the attributes you would expect to see in your complex application. So, you know, you'll see it has menus, libraries, and business logic in it. So you'll see how it converts these various things that you do have in yours. You know, I think it has a reference form as well. And this is a full conversion that we're doing. So we're going to convert the entire app over. And what I want to point out, though, is that you can choose with this solution just to do portions of the conversion. For example, you could just convert the PL SQL. Or, you know, what we see some people do on conversion projects is they'll convert it over, but once they do, they might just convert the presentation layer a second time around into some of the different options. ADF is one option for the presentation layer that we have. We also offer a non-ADF presentation layer that runs in a browser as well for those that aren't committing to the ADF stack. And the third thing I want you to keep in mind, so the first two is we're converting the Oracle Summit app. It's a full conversion. But the third thing is we're going to show you that like-for-like conversion I talked about, which, again, I think is one of the distinctions of our solution. So it's a like-for-like conversion with the presentation layer deployed in a browser, but as ADF. And then we'll review some of the Java code and converted business logic. But modernization can be done to this. We just have found from our customers' experience that the fastest and lowest risk approach is to do the like-for-like first. Just as an example, one of the things we see customers doing is, you know, they'll set templates for how they want their web applications to look, and you can do that even with this solution. And then when the conversion's done, it will use those templates and those key modernizations out of the box. Now what I'm going to do is turn this over to Khalid for the demo. So just give me 1 second as I give him the presentation privileges. And then the other thing I need to do is unmute Khalid so you all can hear him. So give me 1 sec here. Hold on 1 second, Khalid. I haven't unmuted you yet, so no one can hear you. There, I think you're unmuted, Khalid. Can you say something?
Yes, Matt, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. So everyone, this is Khalid, who I introduced earlier. Go ahead, Khalid.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine. And you should all be seeing my desktop where I'm going to be running the demonstration today. As Matt mentioned, the demo is for a Summit application which consists of 3 forms, 2 libraries, and 1 menu. So what we will do is we will go through the conversion process, and then the second thing will be to deploy that conversion code into Tomcat. And third thing for the developer, like how to do amendments in IDE or modification using a JDeveloper. Basically, we will be using 11G, and then we will be showing some of the code before and after, how it was before in PL SQL and how it is converted into Java, the structure and everything. So when we are doing the conversion tool, basically conversion tool is as easy as installation as you unzip a file. For example, like if you buy a conversion tool, then we will send you a zip file that you unzip in your C drive, root drive, or anywhere you want to run the conversion tool from. So if you see the conversion tool, on the surface you will see that there are not too many options there available. Basically, there is a conversion process, what you want to convert. The conversion process means you want to convert database packages if you are moving from Oracle site to a different database, or libraries, which are like the PL SQL libraries, which extensions are PLLs. The second thing is menu and forms. These are the conversion processes you can choose basically. And the last option I will talk about later when we will finish the conversion. The other things that we normally provide we require in this conversion tool is the company name and the application name. This is one of the requirements for conversion tool, so we could create the package name when we are creating the Java classes. The obviously third thing is presentation layer. What presentation layer you want to choose? As Matt mentioned, there is an ADF JSF option, and there is a plugin swing option basically. Character encoding is UTF-8 for normally English language, but we have already converted like Hebrew and then obviously Japanese characters, so you can use any character encoding here basically, whichever language you want the code to be converted to. And input folder where all your modules will be. When I talk about modules, basically they are your FMBs and PLLs and MMB files, like the form module files. Output folder where the Java code will go. Database connection. This is like required only for read-only purposes or references purposes. We do not take any information from database. We do not write anything on the database basically. Why we need this information? Sometimes you define a variable depending on a table column. For example, you can say ABC is depend on the employee column, employee number. So when we are converting into Java, we need to know what that column type is, data type is. For example, if it is a date, it is a varchar 2, or is it a number? And depending on that type, we convert into proper Java data type. For example, in integer, double, or a string, or whatever we have to convert into. So when we are doing the conversion, basically conversion runs 2 passes except for the libraries, because libraries contain only the PL SQL code, only the business logic. For menus and forms, we have to run the conversion tool automatically run 2 passes. The first pass is to extract the business logic, and that business logic in the forms and menus are present either in the program units or they are present in the triggers. So we extract that and then create the proper Java classes in the right folder structure. The second pass we do is take the presentation layer, like in forms, for example, you have canvases and list of values and other things. So we extract that information from the form and then we create the right presentation layer. Either it is a JSF or ADF presentation layer, or it is an XML presentation layer if you are choosing the plugin version. So what I'm going to do here is start the conversion process. Conversion processes can be chosen in any order basically. You can select the form first to convert. You can select the database libraries to convert, database or libraries to convert, or menus. But what we normally recommend is to be on the right track. First convert your libraries, because it only contains the business logic, and these are the libraries that would be referenced from the other modules like forms and menus. So in this Summit application, we have two libraries, so I'm going to select this. As soon as I select this, you will see that the presentation layer option is gone basically, because these libraries do not have the presentation layer. So I'm going to do a browse here. I select these two libraries and open them. And then once I select them, I put them on the right side for conversion and press the convert button. And once the conversion is done, since these libraries are very small libraries in number of lines of code, so they can run, like normally we say about 1,000 lines a minute, basically what the conversion process convert the code into. So once the conversion is done for any of the conversion process, it will produce a log file. And log file will show you if there are any errors or exception during the conversion. Are there any warnings of, for example, like if you are using a go-to statement, then you will be seeing a warning right here. Basically, it will be saying that go-to statement is not supported by Java directly, so it might be commented out or something like that. And if there are any warnings or exception, for example, then it will show right here. This log file is kept for every day. For example, if you are converting some modules today, then you will have a log file with today's date as the name in the log file. If you convert something tomorrow, it will have tomorrow's date. So this is for due diligence purposes. For example, 2 months after, you want to see what you did basically 2 months earlier, you should be able to see that. So once the library conversion is done, the second thing I'm going to choose is menu conversion. So I'm going to select the menu option. Obviously, the presentation layer comes back. I'm going to say mSummit, which is the menu here. I select it. I have to select the right presentation layer. I select ADF JSF, and that's the all information I need before I press the convert button. And the conversion, again, like it's just a small menu, so it will convert faster. And the two things it has done, it has converted the PL SQL logic to Java and converted the presentation layer. The third thing we would be doing is selecting the form modules. There are 3 modules, and again, obviously, it is saying which character encoding. I'm going to leave it as UTF-8. I'm going to select one form, second form, third form. There are 3 forms that I'm going to select. And once I select, I put it on the right side. I select the presentation layer, which presentation layer you want to convert to, and that's all the information we need, and we press the button to convert. Again, when the conversion is done, as I was saying, that it will create a log file for every processes, and in forms, because it has done more than only the PL SQL logic, so it is showing that all the processes are successful. If there is anything that is not, then it will show it right here. So once these 3 things are done, basically like library conversion, menu conversion, and form conversion, what we do is we create the WAR file. WAR is like web archive file, which you can use for deployment purposes. And that WAR file can be deployed on any application server that is compatible with Java EE. For example, we have already tried under Tomcat, and this is where I'm going to actually deploy today. We have already tried Oracle Application Server 10G, WebLogic Middle Fusionware, WebSphere, Eclipse, and JBoss, and other many, like whichever you want you can be, because it's a web archive file and compatible with Java. So the last step that I was talking about is this step that will create the WAR file for you. The only information you need in this WAR file is obviously that what presentation layer you want. It's Java, so it will create the right libraries for that. And what is the main form? Most of the application we have seen, and as a developer, I know most of the applications are driven by one single form or menu. So basically, that form name drive the rest of the forms from there onward. So in this application, customers is the form that will be driving the order form and a pick form, basically. So second thing it is saying, do you want to compile the converted Java code at the same time? You have two options. Either select this one and it will give it a try to compile the converted Java code. If it is unsuccessful to compile the Java code, obviously it will not create a classes folder for you. But if it is, then it will create the classes folder and you should be able to run the code. In case you don't select this option or the compile went like unsuccessful, then what you can do is put this converted code into JDeveloper or any other IDE, for example Eclipse or NetBeans or something like that, and you should be able to compile there, see what errors you are getting, and then resolve those errors and deploy the code again and move from there onward, basically. I'm going to press the generate code here, right here, and it should be able to create the WAR file for me. This step is compiling the code now.
Hey Halid, while it's compiling, make sure that before you bring up the generated app, bring up the forms version so they see what it is you've been converting. I want to make sure they have the before and after.
Yes, I will do that. So once the this WAR file creation step is done, I'm going to minimize this step. And I know where it has been creating right here, so I'm going to take this WAR file, copy it from here, under Tomcat, I'm going to put it under Tomcat as a WAR file. I'm going to start my Tomcat. Tomcat can be installed as a services, or you can start from your startup batch file. I'm going to see if the deployment runs okay, and it should be. This is the message that I should be getting, that the servlet has deployed successfully. So once this is done, the second step I'm going to do is to show you the application, like the forms application, how it is running. This is the main form submit application, and I'm gonna run my other application side by side so you can see the differences. I'm gonna start a browser. Since everything is on my local machine, so I have already set up the URL here. And then I just have to provide the submit username, password, and I don't have to give the database name because we are only using one database at this time. But if you are using multiple database to connect to like development or test or production database, then at that time you have to provide the database name, otherwise it will give you an error. So once you provide the username login, it opens the main form, which is the customer form, basically. I'm going to actually make it a little bit smaller so we can see side by side. So again, like as I was saying, what the Summit application consists of. Summit application is a very small, easy to medium size application. But basically what it contains almost all the components that you would be using the Oracle form. For example, like it is using a tree structure, it is using a master detail functionality. For example, this is your master, which is the tree, and clicking this will change the detail right on the top, and this is the detail of this master, basically. So it is a master detail relationships, basically. And other thing is that it is using the tab structure. It is using like drop down, like if I change from customer to sales rep, dynamically the where clause is changed on the tree, and it is re-executed the query, basically. The same thing you can do on this side. So ADF over Cyphersoft Composer product basically is mimicking what Oracle form functionality is. It is firing the triggers at the same time when Oracle is firing. Like for example, some of the triggers have to fire in some sequences when you are in different mode. So that's exactly what we, and this is the part where it took some time for us to find out how the sequences work and triggers and all those things. So if I select this one, like for example, so automatically it will bring all its detail right on the right side. By dynamically you can sort on customer name, or you can sort on customer phone number. Sales rep are the same, so you don't have to worry about that. If I change here, it will change the detail right here. If I change this one, it will change. There is a tab structure which will show something. There is a billing, for example. If I go in billing, then there is this one in comments, for example, which is a text area, for example. I'm going to go back in customer mode and select Unisport. The same I'm going to do it here. Select Unisport. I'm going billing. There is a list of value which is displaying like this. I'm going to go in billing and display list of value right here. So when you show display value in ADF version, what happens is the background is grayed out, so you cannot do anything in the form itself unless you select something from list of value, press OK or cancel, then you should be able to go back and then it will be highlighted again. So basically in the list of value, we are stopping the execution right there as an Oracle form does, and then continue after that basically, because sometimes you check what you have selected and what buttons were pressed in the list of value and all those things. It's an alert, basically. List of value is an alert. Now going to this next form, you can press double click, the same as you can do here. Double click this one and it will open the order form basically. So if you press help, for example, it will bring a stack canvas on top of it. The same thing is it will bring the stack canvases. So that's what functionality I was trying to show in Summit application. Summit application uses all master detail functionality. It uses all the components that you might find in Oracle form. It uses different type of canvases and its usage. So that's one of the things that we are using that application, so we can show what our product can do after conversion.
Yeah, this is out of the box, by the way.
Yes, exactly. So
the conversion out of the box. We probably at this point should go ahead and review some of the code.
Yes, I'm going to do that. I'm just exiting out as you would exit out, and then I'm going to minimize just in case someone needs to see it again. So when we go, what we do as a developer, what we do as a developer basically is really make it smaller. As a developer, we need somewhere we can maintain this application after the conversion. So I'm using JDeveloper as my IDE for maintenance purposes, basically. So the same WAR file that I deployed under Tomcat to run, I can use the same WAR file under JDeveloper to do my maintenance or modification. So once I deployed it, I can see the Java structure right here. I'm going to show the structure on the left side for the Oracle form application. So what we have done, as if you see here, that this is the name of the application, it was the name of the company we were talking about. Like we need the name of the company, we need the com. So right here in conversion tool, we needed this information. So com, Sportsco, and Summit. That's the same we are using, com, Sportsco, and Summit. And under Summit, you will see that there are 3 forms that we converted, and each form has the same names. That's another thing we do is we use the same naming convention that was present in Oracle form. So customer, if you open customer, you will see more packages here. Like one is control, nav, and all these things. These are basically representing on Oracle side. If you see, these represent the blocks. And then if you open one of the package, you will see that there are more package files here, and that's as customer. If I open, these represent the items, right? IDs and name and everything. So the structure that we are developing or creating in Java side is same as what Oracle, like form, block, items. And at each level, you will see the triggers. So at the form level, you have a trigger like defined at the form level, which are all these 5 triggers. These triggers are basically defined at the form level. Right here, I'm going to show it to you, which is the name of the file or form .java. And when I go back in this on the right side, you would see that we have an import statement. That import statements are importing the over CipherSoft Composer libraries, and then once you go down further, you will see that alerts are defined. So alerts are right here. So I'm going to take one of the alerts as the example, like delete alert, for example. Name of the alert is there. What type of alert it is? It is a caution. What buttons there are? Yes and no. Button, default button, and message. So that the alerts are defined. Then you start going in the form level triggers. So you have pre-form, you have when window close, and you can notice, like as a form developer, I know what window close is. So if I have to maintain this code in Java side, I would not find that much difficult as someone else who doesn't know the form basically. But it's not too difficult to learn the methodology or framework for CipherSoft Composer at the same time. So when I go in the when new form instance, you can see that there is a program unit that is being called go block. For form programmer, they would know what go block means. Like at this time, you are navigating or going to the block called navigator, and then basically it goes further. So when you are in program unit, what you can do, you can go in the declaration and it will take you directly there. This is a program unit, and I think, Matt, if I'm not wrong, this code can be provided on request or signing or something like that?
That is correct.
Okay. So if someone needs this code converted, submit application code to match how the conversion is done and what the structure is, you can request Matt about that. So, but in a short time, I just want to tell you that this one-to-one conversion is easy to follow. Like for example, it is saying, okay, find the group, delete the group if you find a group, create a new group, add the columns in the group. This is for creating the tree structure basically. So it does all these things right here. Now I'm going on the presentation layer again. Like once you deploy under JDeveloper and set up the code, I'm just gonna make it maximum so you can see. You can see that I open an order form, which I was showing to you right here. So this is the order form at the runtime. This is the order form on maintenance on this side. So you can change, like you can drag and drop. You can see the properties right here. What are the properties for this one, for example? What are the style you use? One thing Matt mentioned was usage of a template or the Cascade style sheet file. So what we are using in our product, we are using Cascade style sheet file for the purpose of look and feel. So for example, if we have this look and feel right here in ADF, where the big background is gray or this blue as the window background, or the buttons have the black black font or things like that. What you can do is you can go in Cascade style sheet, and there are different styles there for buttons. For example, what background color you want, what would be the foreground color of the font, what the font you want to use, is it bold or something like that. That all can be changed in the Cascade style sheet file at one place, and when you run the application, everything will be changed accordingly. So that's what the Cascade style sheet file is used for, and then you can see it is a text style here, and all these like width and height, font size, normal, and all these things can be changed right here in JDeveloper for ADF version. This is out of box provided the functionality by JDeveloper 11. So that's basically I wanted to show like how the conversion runs, how it will look after the conversion, and how you can maintain the code once the conversion is done and you are ready for maintenance.
Great. Well, what we'll do now is there have been some questions posted since we began the webinar. So we'll go through the questions. And again, for those of you that still want to post a question, use the Q&A button on your toolbar. That's the one with the question mark. And we'll try and look on the chat as well, but just to make sure we can get to everything, we ask you to use that Q&A button, and we'll start going through the questions. Or, Halid, was there anything else you wanted to show before we went into the Q&A?
No, I think I'm done, basically.
Okay. So let's start one sec. Let me get to the questions. So the first question, is there a fully functional Eclipse solution instead of JDeveloper? You can, I mean, this is a Java application that's converted, so you can maintain it with any Java IDE. So, and we do have customers that use Eclipse as their IDE to maintain applications converted with this solution. And the other thing, this wasn't part of that question, but just to emphasize that you get all of the converted code, all of the source code for this converted app. So once you convert with the tool, we have support, we have consulting, we have different support options for you, but there's no dependency on us, no runtime licensing or anything like that. You get all of the Java source for this application to maintain and extend on your own. Now, we do offer, if you license the tool to do the conversion, we do offer training so that you're familiar with all of that Java source, but you get all of that. Next question, how are ActiveX components integrated into the solution?
Basically, and do you want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm just going to start that, and then maybe George. Like, it's not only ActiveX we are talking about. Like, there can be a VBX and other components that are only window-based components. And when you are moving to Java, or when you are upgrading, even like in Oracle form, when you are moving from 6i, which supports VBX because it's a client-server application, when you move to a web application, then these are basically not supported directly from out of box as we have done other conversion here. But what you can do is, if it is an ActiveX provided by another third party, there are those third parties have already created their ActiveX in Java, so you can either take that ActiveX as whatever the license agreement you have, or your ActiveX can be recreated in Java manually and then used in the application after conversion. But there is no out-of-box direct conversion of ActiveX or VBX or things like that.
Right. So, and actually, this is a good time to bring up another point. I mean, that's an example that, like a third-party integration point. There are things like that in your application. And we actually have, as part of the tool, an analyzer that is part of the migration process before you would do conversion, whether we were performing the conversion for you as a service, which is one option, or if you license, you purchase the tool and go through training, if you're going that option, you would get the analyzer with the tool, and in the training we'd teach you how to use it. But you basically would run the Forms app, or we would, through the analyzer, and it would flag things that aren't automatically migrated. In some cases, it'll be third-party integration points, like an ActiveX control. In other cases, it's just things that, hey, because you're moving to this Java-based architecture from a client-server architecture, there are certain things you need to make decisions on, so it shouldn't be automatically migrated. And so far, everything we've run into, there's a way to address it, whether it's pre-conversion in the Oracle Forms or post-conversion on the Java side. And in fact, we have a document that outlines some of the more common ones and the best practices and things like that for addressing those. So those are things to be expected as part of any conversion process. Okay, next question. The resolution of the presentation is not readable. Not sure what the resolution that you're at on your screen. Certainly from the screens we're viewing it at in a couple different places, the resolution is fine, but we can make the presentation available to you. We can follow up with you afterwards so you can actually get the PowerPoint. And we also do a recording of this whole presentation, and so if you need to view it again and reset your screen resolution for a better viewing of it, that's a possibility as well.
Plus, we provide the, so if they want, they can take the Summit's converted source code and check it at their end.
Sure. Next question, is the generated code in HTML? And I'll let you answer that one, Khalid. Or by the way, we might have George on here as well, who is our Director of Development. And so I don't know, he may, just so you know who that is, if all of a sudden we have a different voice piping in to answer questions.
So the presentation layer, we generate GSF-based files, and Khalid showed during the presentation one of the order form, one of the forms. And if you go, but we use the design view to demonstrate this presentation layer component. But if we go to the source, you can review this file. So it's a GSF-based component. And we are using also ADF faces components. At runtime, the server will generate an HTML document and send that HTML document to the browser. So at runtime, we are working with HTML document, cascading style sheets, and JavaScript.
All right. Any other questions? Let me see if there's anything on chat that we might have missed. I've been going through the Q&A. Okay, one last question. What do you think about the approach of trying to put all of the business logic into the database? Well, I'll let the George or Khalid comment on that, but I guess my initial comment would be that might be possible for some very simple forms applications, but for those of you that have done any complex forms applications, you probably know that putting all of the business logic into the database is probably not a very realistic approach to a more of an enterprise level type of application. And in the Oracle Java stack, I mean, that's what the Fusion middleware is for, as an application server for managing that business logic layer. But I'll let George or Khalid comment on that from a more technical standpoint.
So there are basically, when you migrate Oracle Forms applications to Java, there are very limited functionality that you can migrate to a database. And the reason is because Oracle Forms is relying on a framework, hundreds of built-in functions. As we've seen it even in this small application, we are displaying alerts, we are navigating, going from one block to another. So we have hundreds, or in Oracle Forms, we have hundreds of built-in functions. To migrate these built-in function calls, or anything that relates tightly to the Oracle Forms environment, such as referring to system variables and others, don't make sense in the database. The other issue with migrating things or keeping things in the database is that as a good Java EE design practice, we try to keep the business logic in the domain model as opposed to in the database. And the reason I believe is that we want to make sure that the application, the Java EE application, is database independent. In Java, we want to make sure that the Java application will be operating system independent and database independent. So these are the two main reasons why keeping the business logic in the database might not make too much sense. Probably there are certain functionalities that you can move to the database, mostly related to the libraries in Oracle Forms. But again, this is just limited functionality.
Right. Now, there is an option if there will be business logic in the database already, right, in the form of there could be some PL SQL in stored procedures in the database or things like that. And we're not suggesting that you take that out necessarily. There is an option to convert that into Java as well with the tool automatically. But certainly, you know, for the business logic of the application itself is what we're talking about in terms of not making sense in the you know, moving it into the database. One last question that I got, unless there's any more that's posted, is can you tell us a little bit more about the actual migration process? And I can. Let me just take a minute here, and what I'll do is I'm going to switch back over. We often get this question, so I'm going to I just need to switch back over to the slides. I have a slide I can show. Hold on one second. So here is a high-level overview of the conversion process, and actually there would be a box before this if we were doing the project where you would do the analysis and project kickoff and those types of things. But these are the high-level steps for the conversion process, where after you do the analysis, you determine, you know, what's the effort. We have that analyzer to do that. Then you would actually set up the conversion environment. And what we do when we do it is we set up the forms environment first because we want to make sure we have exactly how the forms application is behaving before we convert it into Java. And then once we have that set up, you would do the initial conversion, and then you would do the compilation after that conversion, getting it all to compile. There will be some cases after the conversion of things that won't compile that have to be cleaned up. And part of that just has to do with Java is a much stricter compiler than the compiler for Oracle Forms. There's a lot more structure to it. And then you would do any initial debugging and presentation layer changes. And then once you have that done, you would execute any use cases, you know, based on the testing scripts. Like I said, when you're doing a like for like, you know, you typically have that already documented and done, so you would just run through those. And then any issues that come out of that testing is that issue resolution phase. And then, if needed, you would do performance tuning after you make sure you have all of the functionality done. And we actually have a utility in there for that. This isn't something that's needed every time, but you know, we've had customers where they have the application and the user is in one location, the database is in, you know, 5 states away in a different location, and the app server is 1 state away in a data center. So a very distributed architecture. And in that case, you know, like with a heavy data entry screen, there's some performance tuning you would need to do to get back to the same performance that you got in the Oracle Forms version of the app. But in all the projects that we do or that our customers do, they are able to achieve that performance. So, but we have, there's utilities as part of the tool to help with that, you know, when you have those extreme cases. So, and that's an overview of the conversion process. Let me see if there's any other questions. If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. 1 second here. How does your tool handle conversion to a J2EE environment? So the conversion you see is actually to a J2EE environment. So this will run on any J2EE app server. So, you know, we have customers that run on the Oracle Fusion middleware, which is the BEA WebLogics. We have customers on Tomcat. We have customers on WebSphere. And I can't think off the top of my head. Those are the 3 most common ones that we see. And then they use, you know, they'll use various different Java IDEs. There is a different presentation layer option that runs in the browser. But again, what this app converts to the Forms app to is a J2EE application. It's J2EE code. All right, well, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar. We want to thank you for attending. We hope you found it useful. When you exit out, there's a little 3-question or 4-question survey. Please take a moment, let us know what you thought. Is this what you were expecting in the webinar today? Were there things that we didn't cover that you were expecting? And if there are future topics you'd like to see covered, let us know. We use those survey responses to help drive our future webinars, and we do one about every 2 months or so. And then, just so you know, we will have a recorded version of this available on the website at cyphersoftinc.com, and that should be available within the next it might be available by tomorrow, if not on Monday for sure. And, you know, if you have any further questions, I'm sure a Unify representative will follow up with you to see what you thought of the webinar and see if you have any additional questions. Thanks again for participating.